So back to your story. You sold your business, started a corporate job. What was that job, and how did you start?
So I had a number of corporate jobs over nearly 20 years. And I had worked for the behemoth for a number of years. I worked for Walmart for about 5 years. I worked for a huge grocery chain in the southeast part of the U.S. called Southeastern Grocers, about 1,000 grocery stores.
Mm,
I made a move to the West Coast. There was a specialty retail business there called Bevmo, which is all along the West Coast. And excuse me, then my final corporate role was in Australia. I worked in Melbourne for a company called Coles. And all of these huge companies, massive volumes of wine. In many cases, you're talking more commodity type of wines.
yeah.
Uh, and for me, that was a whole different aspect of the wine business. I mean, when I had my store, it was all about hand selling wines that were very artisanal. They were
Mm,
mostly small family operations. They had a good story.
yeah.
I moved into another part of the world where, okay, it's all about looking at a spreadsheet and moving volume and hitting margin targets. I spent years creating private label wines, and in some parts of the world that's very advanced. In the UK, for instance, private label has been a foundational piece in that wine world for years. In the U.S., not so much. It is now. It's really progressed. But back in the early days when I was involved in it, it was a small part of the business. So
What is private label wine?
it's essentially where you create a new brand through a contract with a supplier. So it's done in this
Mm,
very analytical means. I would look at a business, and again, we're talking, moving hundreds of millions of dollars in wine. There are opportunities within your assortment
yeah.
where, let's say, uh, and this plays in the wine very well because wine is an extremely fragmented business.
Yeah.
There's a million plus brands out there. If any of those brands disappeared today, I mean, the real story is no one would care.
Of course.
It's not like someone has critical mass. Even big players like Gallo, for instance, they don't have critical mass. Um, but what I would do is I would find opportunities within the assortment. And now I'd go out and find myself a supplier partner that could meet the quality, the volume, price stability. They would hit a specific style that I want.
Mm,
Perhaps the private label would be styled exactly after an existing brand. And
okay.
so if you do this correctly as a large retailer, uh, it certainly does help to drive loyalty. If someone buys your private label, they can't get it anywhere else. So
Yeah.
hopefully they come back. It's also a margin driver. You generally work on higher profit margins than branded
Of
items,
course.
which have a lot of competition. And the other thing is, it really does help as a leverage point against those big brand holders.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a viable option. I can put more emphasis on that. I'm asking you to sharpen a price or give me something that you're not willing to give. You have leverage points. And it really just becomes business negotiation at that point. I did this for years.
Wow. So these opportunities that you are looking for are like wine styles or price categories or maybe a combination in
It
the
could be,
store.
yeah, it could be any of those. It might be, I may be looking at a business and saying, okay, we have a Spanish business that's increasing. Okay, where is it increasing? It's increasing in a $10 to $15 retail price, heavy emphasis on two regions. It's Rioja and Ribera del Duero. Okay, because it's very fragmented. oftentimes a retailer can create a private label, and as a consumer, the consumer may not even know it's private label. They just say, "Oh, here's a Rioja that I hadn't seen before. Cool, I want to try that."
Mm.
So those are the types of things that I look for. And the wine world changes. Back many years ago, some of the very early private label programs that I worked on were Moscato based. It had that spike in
Yeah.
interest a couple of decades ago. Sometime after that, it was Malbec from Argentina. This is red hot. This is another
Yeah.
one you can look at. When Rosé made a comeback, again, that's an opportunity. So it's not stagnant. It's always changing.
Yeah, that must be very exciting. So this was the main part of your job, building these private labels, or
That was a significant part. Yeah. Because what it did is the more that you could grow that private label business, for the company itself, if they own the brands, it becomes equity for the company. So it has that value. But also, it was something that drove margin, it helped to differentiate, it provided value in other places as well. This is the cornerstone of many large retailers around the world today.
yeah.
In the US, back 20 years ago, not so much, but it is a heavy, heavy focus today. And there's some retailers in the US where the foundation of their business is private label or control label. And the difference
Mm.
being with private label, that is, you've created something from concept to completion.
Yeah.
Okay. A control label would be one where you may have an exclusive in this specific market. In a different market, someone else would have an exclusive.
Mm.
So in effect, it's the same result, but the mechanics is a bit different.
I see.
But in the US, for instance, take a retailer like Total Wine. Huge retailer, multiple states, growing, fantastic
Yeah.
following. Much of their business is based on private and control labels. And
Hmm.
again, it's if you can do this in a way where it resonates with your customers, it's a great way to differentiate yourself. It makes you a very unique shopping destination.
Wow, that's very interesting. Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section and see you in the next one.